Hi and welcome. I hope you're having a wonderful week. This is Gina from McGuire. So today I am revisiting a product that I bought way back in the day when I started stamping. And I know many of you did the same, and that is alcohol ink. Well, alcohol ink is making a comeback right now, so I've been getting a lot of requests. I thought I would do a video showing how you can use alcohol ink to make easy, bold backgrounds. I warn you, this is very addictive and a lot of fun to do. So I'm just going to show you the basics today. Now my video kind of rambles through a bunch of different examples, but I thought that was the best way to show you how much fun these products are. So let's jump into making some alcohol ink backgrounds. I do recommend working on some sort of easy to clean craft mat. This is the Tonic Easy Clean Mat. It kind of has a sticky back so it stays put when you're working. I'm using Ranger Yupo paper today. This is a synthetic paper. It's hard to tear. It's kind of like a plastic paper, you could say. It's got this beautiful smooth surface. I'm using the white Yupo paper today. However, there is a translucent Yupo paper, that's the one on the right, that you could also use, but today I'm sticking with the white. You can also do these techniques on glossy cardstock, but I find the alcohol inks move better on the Yupo paper. I'm also using Ranger alcohol inks today. These come in a bunch of colors. I'm going to use a lot of bold colors today, but you can definitely go for a soft look for these techniques if you wanted to. Now there are lots of colors. Then there's also the alcohol blending solution. This is great for lightening and moving your alcohol ink colors around on your paper. I also have some metallic mixatives. So Ranger has some metallic mixatives for your alcohol ink. These you definitely want to shake. And when you add these, you get a metallic look to your projects. So I have several of those on hand. I also have some basic rubbing alcohol here. Mine is tinted blue because I accidentally put a blue brush in it that had blue paint on it, so ignore that it's tinted blue. It's just basic rubbing alcohol. Okay, I also have a brush that I use just for this technique and a straw. Now, Ranger's website has some safety suggestions for using alcohol ink, so be sure to check that out. You do want to work in a well-ventilated area, of course, with a window or a fan or something, and you want to make sure to not spray the alcohol inks. So let's get started here. All I'm doing is putting drops onto my Yupo paper. You can see there is no method to my madness. I'm adding as many colors as I want, and I'm actually adding quite a few drops because I want bold color. But there's a lot in this bottle, so a little goes a long way. Now after I have some drops down, you can see it's already starting to move. What I like to do is come in with my alcohol and a paintbrush and kind of paint around, and you can see that it lightens it and it gets it moving. So you can stop at any time. I tend to overwork it, but if you sit and let it do its own thing, the backgrounds can be beautiful. You can add more colors at any point, and if you want to start over, just wipe it with like an alcohol swab and it'll clean it off. Now what I like to do is take a straw and blow air to kind of move the colors around. And you can see the beautiful background you get. You could leave it here as is if you want to, or you can keep working with it. That's the fun of working with this product. Now you can see every time I add the alcohol, it lightens it and moves it. I tell you, it's completely fascinating. Now Ranger does have little alcohol ink tools that you use felt to kind of pounce the colors onto your paper to get like a polished stone effect. You can use those too by all means, and I'll use those in a future video. But I wanted to show you how easy it is just by dripping on colors and moving it around on your own. You can end up with like a droplet effect or with stripes kind of going across by just taking your brush across, whatever you want. It's really fun to play with and extremely addictive. Now I'm going to take you with me as I make a few more background examples. Now for this one, I wanted to end up with like blues and greens and yellows and kind of like a stripy look. So I'm putting down some blues, greens, and yellows. It'd be beautiful if I left it as is, but I'm going to add some silver metallic mixative. Make sure you shake that very well and you'll see it comes out like silver paint drops. I like to add some alcohol to those drops. So I'm just running my alcohol brush through them. And then I'm going to blow a little air on that to get them moving. And I'm going to leave this as is. I think this is a really cool look with lots of contrast to it. And I'll do some more blended ones in a moment. So here I'm going to use the same colors and kind of that same starting pattern of drops, but I'm instead not going to use the mixative, and I'm not going to run my brush through it. Instead, I'm going to use the blending solution from Ranger. Now, when you drop this on, you get even more movement than you do with the alcohol, and it doesn't lighten it as much. It just moves it more. So you can get really cool effects. That's why I like to have both. Now, if you let this dry on its own, it would be gorgeous. But what I like to do is add a little bit of movement with my straw just by blowing air onto it. And look at that beautiful background that you get. Again, you just want to set that aside and let it dry on its own. It doesn't take too long. Now, it wouldn't be a video from me if I didn't include a rainbow example. So here I decided to put down the drops kind of in a little diagonal rainbow pattern. Then I'm going in and adding drops with my blending solution. You can see how it all starts to move together. Again, you can leave this as is, but by blowing a little bit of air on it, you can see how it blends a bit better. Such a beautiful background. Now, if you wanted a softer look, you could use less of the bold colors and use more alcohol or blending solution. Here I wanted something really pink and orange and vibrant, adding lots of color down here. Again, there's a lot of alcohol ink in these bottles, so don't feel like you're wasting it. I'm adding some gold metallic mixative, running my alcohol brush through it. Then I'm going to blow some air on it, and look at this gorgeous look that you get. That metallic is really metallic-y, so you can see that when it catches the light, that beautiful gold look that you get to it. So in my examples so far, I use my alcohol brush to kind of run through the metallic mixative drops to get them moving. Another thing you can do is just put drops of the metallic mixative and then drip some blending solution on it. So here I've put some drops down, and then onto each of those little metallic drops, I'm putting some blending solution. So that kind of breaks it up, and you can see how it quickly moves. So now I can blow a little bit of air onto this and get some beautiful backgrounds with lots of movement. So I will tell you, there are many ways to use alcohol inks. There are some really cool kind of magical techniques that you can do, and I'll save those for another video if you guys are interested. Alcohol inks have been a technique that stampers have used for many years. So there are lots of great things that you can do with them. But here today I wanted to show you how easy they are to use to create bold, beautiful backgrounds. And I will say that they are excellent for die cutting too. You can easily die cut these Yupo paper backgrounds. So you could do some beautiful things and then just die cut a simple star die cut. Put that on a card with the sentiment, and you'd have a quick holiday card. Now, I know folks are going to ask which alcohol ink colors I like the best, and to be honest with you, it really just depends on what colors you're normally drawn to or like the most. I'll link some of my personal favorites over on my blog, so you can check that out if you want to. But alcohol inks are pretty inexpensive, and you could just get a few and do many different things with them. This is one of my favorites here. I love how bold it is, and I just liked leaving it like this. You can tap it, like put it kind of up on its side and tap it to get the drip motion too. So I let these all dry for a while, and I'm going to come back and show you what they look like dry, just so you can see all the different looks that you get. This one I used some purples and pinks. I don't love the whole piece, but that's okay. I can cut out the part that I do like. This one is definitely my favorite because I love rainbow, and I love the silver that I have in it. This is the rainbow one I made earlier in the video, and I actually saved that one. I didn't have the heart to turn it into a card. I may frame it instead. Here's another rainbow where I used a lot of color but no metallic mixative. This one's really cool. Lots of bold, bright color and lots of silver mixative. Now this one I think would be great for a simple card. Now you may find the surface of this to be a little bit sticky if you have some areas where there was a lot of alcohol ink. You can use an anti-static powder tool on it to remove that stick, but I usually don't have any problems. I do like to take a dry cloth to rub off any of the excess color. You could use a fixative on this, but I never bother with it. These work great, and I've found that they mail great too. Now this one is another one of my favorites. I think it's just a beautiful look. You could create some really gorgeous galaxy looks or cloud looks with these too. Now you'll notice some of these don't go all the way up to the edge. That's okay. These are 5 by 7, so I can trim down and use the areas that I like and save the little scraps for a fun card later. Now, if you let a background dry and decide you don't love it, you can always go and add more blending solution to it and kind of get things moving again and see if you like that result better. Check out this one. Remember this one? This is the pink and the orange and the yellow with the gold metallic mixative. I think that's fun for a bold, bright holiday card. Now for this one here, I actually put some blending solution onto a foam ink blending tool and pounced it on to my final result. And you get those little variations. I'll show that in a future video. Now these last 3 cards that I'm going to show you here, these I actually used the remainder of alcohol ink that was on my craft sheet. I dragged some Yupo paper through it, and that's why you get these soft looks, because there was very little alcohol ink there, but you can use every little drop. And I really like how soft these are. Most of my backgrounds today are nice and bold, but you can make soft looks. So as I mentioned, these are 5 by 7. So if I trim them in half, I end up with 2 pieces that are 3.5 by 5, which is the perfect size for a 4-bar card, which is 3.5 by 5. Or you can just take the background and trim some off the sides until you have a background that would work for a 4.25 by 5.5 inch card or whatever size you want. I'll be making both sizes today. Now all these little strips that I'm cutting off, I'm going to save those. Those are beautiful and can be used on another card, and you could even die cut them. Now that we have our backgrounds ready, let's create the accents that go on these cards. I want to keep them pretty simple because the backgrounds are beautiful, but I do want to add some interest to them, so I'm using some specialty papers today. One thing I'm using is this new glitter cardstock. It's heavyweight, it's 12 by 12, and the pack comes with all of these colors, and they're just beautiful. So I'm going to use some of those for my die cutting today. I'm also going to use some vellum from this Vellum assortment pad. There are a variety of different types of vellum in here. I'll be using the basic shimmer vellum. It's like a silvery vellum for these cards, but you could use regular vellum if you want. Now, since I am doing so much white die cutting, I decided to put adhesive on the back of a piece of white cardstock so that when I die cut it, it already has the adhesive. I'm using Couture Creations adhesive sheets today, and I'll explain why I chose that in a moment. I'm also using a new Simon Says stamp Rejoice die set. It cuts the word rejoice and its shadow. And then also the Holy Star dies. There are 2 in here, a large and a small. I had actually requested these from Christina Werner, and she designed them, and they are beautiful. I mean, I am absolutely in love with these. So I'm cutting from that adhesive back cardstock that we made. And I find that the dies cut beautifully through the cardstock and the adhesive, but the thicker release paper on this particular adhesive stays behind. It stays put together, so you can easily remove your die cut without having little pieces of release paper everywhere. So you can see how easy it is to remove the little die cut, and then I can just add it wherever I want on my project. I'm actually adding my die cut to a piece of vellum that I cut from the shadow die for the Rejoice. And look at that beautiful embellishment I get. Now I'm using a craft knife to just pick up the little eyes, the little dots for the eyes, and add that to it also. I decided I didn't want to have the exclamation point on this particular card, so I'm just going to go ahead and trim that off. So I picked one of my alcohol ink backgrounds, trimmed it down a bit so it fits nicely on a 4.25 by 5.5 inch white note card. I also die cut one of the Holy Stars from some of that silver glitter paper, put adhesive on the back of that, and now I'm putting some strong liquid adhesive on the back of my Rejoice die cut, making sure to hide my adhesive behind the white. Now I can go ahead and add these 2 together onto the front of my card. I really like how the beautiful alcohol ink background and the glitter paper and the vellum all add to this simple card. Now I did add a few embellishments. These are the Studio Katia silver foil jewels. These are really cool. They're little rhinestones that have a silver finish. So they really catch the light nicely and are the perfect accents for these cards. And by the way, I'm sorry my head gets in the way, but sometimes you got to get close to see where you're putting things down. Now at this point, I was afraid the word rejoice wasn't standing out enough, so I decided to double it up. So I die cut the word again from the adhesive backed white cardstock, and I'm just putting another one right on top. So I'm stacking it up, and it really makes a big difference in kind of emphasizing that sentiment die cut. So you can see half of it is done there. So I'll go ahead and finish it off, and there we have our first card. This one I think would be fun to mass produce. I like to die cut for my mass produced cards because I can just crank out a bunch of the die cuts and then assemble them all at once. Now a couple other examples using the Simon Says Stamp Rejoice die cuts and the Holy Stars. This one's a little bit smaller. It's 3.5 by 5. And here's one using one of the softer backgrounds. So you can see how fun it is to create a variety of backgrounds, but keep the same design. Now I also created a few examples using the new Simon Says Stamp Oh Holy Night die set. This cuts, again, both the words and the shadow. So the shadow is once again cut from vellum with white die cut words added to it. And I again used the large Holy Star from silver glitter paper. And also those silver foil jewels. So you can see the beautiful bold background that I got there. I mixed some blues, purples, greens, and some silver mixative. Now here is another example. This one's mostly purples and pinks. I didn't add the Holy Star to this one. I really do like the Holy Star in the background, so I think I might go back and add it to this one. Now I wanted to show you a trick using this new Simon Says Stamp Wise Men Still Seek Him die. I wanted to place these words onto this vellum piece, and I wanted them to be nicely positioned. So I die cut the die from some scrap orange cardstock, and I'm just laying it on top of my vellum. Now I have my word die cuts that I can pop right in place, and I can be sure that they'll be positioned nicely. Now the die cuts that I have here are the white glitter paper from the cardstock pack that I showed you earlier, and I put adhesive on the back of them. Once I have all my letters put in there, I can remove my negative space, and everything is positioned nicely on the vellum. So now I can put some liquid adhesive on the back of this, hiding it behind those die cut words, and then just add it to an alcohol inked background. I'm going to leave this as is and not add any accents, and there's just something beautiful about that background and that glitter paper. That's all you need for that card. Now this next example shows you what you can do with a smaller background. So say only like a certain part of one of your backgrounds, you can trim it down and use it behind a die cut window. Now I wanted to show you the stamp set that I'm going to use on this too. This is new from Simon Says Stamp and Gina Designs. They teamed up to make this stamp set, and 100% of the sales go to hurricane relief, which is amazing. That means whatever you pay for this stamp set, all of that money goes to hurricane relief. So a big shout out to Simon Says Stamp and Gina for doing that. What a great way to help others. So I'm using a sentiment from that, stamping it with Versamark ink onto my background, and I'm going to heat set this. Now here's the thing, you don't want to heat this much. So what I do is I let my heat gun get really, really hot. And I bring it to my paper and I just kind of keep moving it away so that I don't overheat it. The Yupo paper stands up nicely, but you really don't want to be heating this stuff too much. But it did heat emboss nicely. Now on the background of this little tree window die cut, I'm going to add lots of foam tape. Then I'll glue that down onto my little background piece here. So this will be kind of set back. Then I can put some more adhesive onto my note card so that background glues in there nicely. And there we have the completed card. Now you could add little jewels to this, add little leaves to your tree, but I decided to leave this as is. I think it's simple and beautiful. Okay, so our next examples use this background stamp. This is something that I had requested from Christina Werner. We were hanging out together in a hotel room, and I said I would love a background stamp where you could pop the center out so you can put a sentiment in there, or you can pop it in and use it as a complete stamp. And it turned out so gorgeous. So I actually used this background to white heat emboss on a couple of my alcohol ink backgrounds. I did take the center out, so I'd have this little window area in the center where I can add a sentiment. Now I'm going to heat emboss this with white embossing powder. And again, you want to get your heat gun really good and hot and kind of keep the heat moving to and from the background until you see it's all embossed. You can see how beautiful that is on there. So you can heat emboss on these alcohol ink backgrounds. Just be careful. I die cut a white circle and gold heat embossed the sentiment Merry and Bright on it and added that to the center with foam adhesive. This Merry and Bright sentiment is new from Simon Says Stamp, and it's from the Simon Says Stamp Merry and Bright stamp set. Here's another example. This time I silver heat embossed the background and then added the silver embossed sentiment in the center. So this is another fun way you can use your alcohol ink backgrounds. My next examples feature the fabulous Simon Says Stamp Fa La La stamp set and die set. The stamp set is fun because it has the large word, but it also has smaller sentiments that you can use with it or on other cards. I thought these would be great on this bold background here. So I die cut from white adhesive back cardstock 2 of the Fa La La die cuts, and I'm just stacking them on top of each other. I also white heat embossed Making Spirits Bright right underneath it, and that's from that Fa La La stamp set. Now I added a few Pretty Pink Posh gold confetti accents to the background. I felt like the gold in those accents pulled out the gold mixative in the background nicely. Here's another example using the Fa La La die cut set and stamp set. This one I die cut the Fa La La from silver glitter cardstock and added it to a white die cut shadow. And then last but not least, for this stamp and die set, I created a smaller card. This is a 3.5 by 5 inch card, but I can let my die cut hang off the edge and it'll still fit nicely in a regular envelope. I again used the silver glitter cardstock on this and some little silver accents. Okay, my next few examples use the new Simon Says Stamp stained glass stamp set. It has lots of beautiful details to these sentiments, and there are smaller sentiments that you can fit nicely with them. There is a coordinating die set available. I tell you, this new Simon Says Stamp release is just amazing, so I wanted to show you as many examples as I could. Okay, for this one, remember this background, it was one of the first ones I created in this video. I just gold heat embossed the sentiment on white cardstock and added it with foam tape. Felt like this one was best left very simple. Now this really bold background had so much going on, I wanted to keep it simple also, so I white heat embossed the sentiment on a vellum strip and wrapped it around the alcohol ink background and added it to a card. And then the third example using this one, I just made a smaller card with this small background and white heat embossed the sentiment directly into the center of the card. Very simple, but it's something that you can make very quickly. And last but not least is the rainbow background that I decided to leave as is. I think I'm going to frame this and put this in my daughter's room. I just like it how it is, but I did want to show you how beautiful it ended up. Now, I just shared a ton of examples with you. Please know that over on my blog, I have photos of all of these cards and explain what products I used. I just really wanted to show you a bunch of different ways to use these backgrounds using some of these fun new products from Simon Says Stamp. I appreciate you watching. Supplies are linked in the YouTube description below. In the middle here, I have a couple other videos for you. One of them uses similar techniques, but with Copic reinkers, so you can check that out. If you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you back soon. Thanks for sticking with me for a long video, and have a great day.